What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the God's South Show. I keep saying the God's South Show. It's just God's South Show. I should know this. I made the name. Welcome back to another episode. We are going to start a new series. I feel like this would be something really good to talk about, as this is kind of in the time of what I'm learning right now. Because a lot of things that I come on and talk to you about is something I'm most likely going through at the moment, or just something that kind of came to mind, and I really started like kind of building in my head, like, what I would say to somebody if I was telling them about this. But today we are going to start up in the book of James, or as I like to call it, the book of conviction. So that's gonna happen a lot, bud. It's gonna happen a lot. So if you don't already, and for the first time or one of the first times, I got my Bible with me. Bible is about 2 to 3 generations old, I think. So it's a pretty old Bible, but shout out to my grandma for giving it to me. It's a King James version, the Old Testament and the New Testament, and I'm very happy about it. So thank you, Grandma. But we're gonna start off in the book of James. James, a bondservant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. My brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into divers temptation, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Okay, so that is a lot to unpack, but that was James chapter 1, verses 1 through 8. That's what we're going to be going over today, because that kind of just stays in context of this podcast episode. These videos may not be as long as the usual ones, but I want to try to get these out every Thursday, not Wednesday, because I get home late from church, and I end up learning something, but I also just kind of want to let it like linger on my mind, and maybe if I end up coming up with something, so I can say it when I do record. But we're going to go back. All right, so going back into chapter, verse 1, I mean. So, a bondservant. Now, some of you guys' Bibles may not say that, especially if you have the King James version like mine. I added bondservant, like the word bond, to it, because that was actually very important on what we talked about in youth group. So, a bondservant, in context of James, he chooses the term bondservant because a bondservant is a servant who is indebted, right? So a servant, somebody who became a servant to pay off a debt. James calls himself a bondservant because he's saying he's indebted to God. Then going on to where it says the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad greeting. So that was said because in this time, in this context, which, guys, context is very important. Guys and girls. I know some people don't like the term guys. I use it to refer to everybody. My brethren, as the Bible says. Context is very important. Like, a lot of people take the Bible out of context. It was written in a different time, dude. Like, a lot of it can be interpreted into now, but it was written in a different time. And honestly, I feel like if you're not getting the context of that time, things are going to seem a lot more confusing. They're not really going to make much sense. You know what I'm saying? But in this time, says the 12 tribes. I'm so sorry I keep saying a lot. This was a problem in another video. The 12 tribes, basically, he's saying the church is scattered. And that is because at this time, Christians were being persecuted, as they are kind of now. It seems like we're really going back in time as time goes on. And in the context of trials that they're talking about, it is this persecution against them for what they believe. Which, it's honestly crazy how people just be so controlling, which they have no actual power. In verse 2, it says, my brethren, count it all joy. That's a key term of this episode. When ye fall into divers temptations. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically, context of various trials is what it means. Counting joy. That is very important. What does that mean? Counting joy. He's not telling us to be happy when we're going through trials. That is not what he's telling us. I mean, you should always keep your head up, of course, but that is not what he's telling us. Counting joy means knowing that through a trial, there's going to be growth. It's like rain for a tree. We always want it to be sunny. Some of us, at least, not me. I don't know. Not always. But it's like rain for a tree. We might want it to be sunny, but we know that rain is going to help that tree grow. You see what I'm saying? So counting joy isn't be happy, but it's remembering that Jesus has you, and that this trial or whatever you're going through is not just a trial for no reason or an obstacle for no reason. Or really maybe what you think may be punishment is for you to grow. Here where it says in verse 3, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. The easiest interpretation of this is trees can't grow without rain. Basically stating the same thing. In verse 4 it says, but let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. Best way to put this is just still expanding on the idea that trees can't grow without rain, really. That's really the best way I can put it. If any of you have an idea, this is James chapter 1 verse 4. If any of you have an idea on what that can mean, please do comment. Would really appreciate it, and I'm sure the people watching would appreciate it. Verse 5, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men, liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. Seek God for wisdom. You want some advice, go to God. I mean, I know, typically we'll go to our friends or whatever, family, or just other people in general and look for wisdom. You want wisdom, seek God. Seek God. You want a solution to your problem, seek God. Look to God for counsel. Because I promise you, he can give you better advice than anybody on earth. And I bet you some advice they heard is from somebody else who heard it from the Bible. Most likely. Here where it says in verse 6, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. Don't be lukewarm, is basically what that's saying. And to continue on that, in verse 7, for let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in his ways. So what James is saying here is basically that a lukewarm man is like a lukewarm man or a double-minded man is like a wave of the sea, just tossed around, just going with the flow. When you're with faith, faith has to be stone-like. It can't be wavered. You can't just go with the flow and have faith. You see what I'm saying? You're at church, you worship and all for Jesus and everything there. But then you go out with your friends and you're doing all these other things that Jesus wouldn't approve of. That's wavering. You can't do that. Conviction. Not for me. Not for me. I can't convict. I have no right. To expand on the counting joy thing, I remember the pastor, shout out Pastor Jonathan, so cool. He just dropped a bombshell on us, two of them, like mid-service. I mean, he got us to lock in, sure, but dude, I remember afterwards, I talked to him and I was like, what was that? Like, really? You couldn't tell us this wasn't gonna be a good day? But we were there, and he mentions two people from the church, and some people raised their hand. He asked who knew him, and they raised their hand, and he was like, they're not having a good day. Their mom just died in a car accident. My face dropped, of course. It wasn't pleasant to hear at all, but he was basically saying they're not happy right now. They're not having a good day. But the whole point of counting joy wasn't for us to have a good day, but to remember that hard times are going to build us up to be stronger and stronger people. And again, God is never going to give us more than we can handle. And then he talked about how this 17-year-old was driving. And this lady going like 110 rear-ended him. And he ended up flying out his windshield and head first into a tree. And then how he tried to call his mom. He's still conscious, by the way. He didn't get knocked unconscious. He tried to call his mom. And on the third time of him trying to call, he passed away. And I can't remember exactly what he said. It was a bit ago. I'm sorry about that. But those aren't good times. Those people are not having good times. But, again, it's not about being happy in a bad time. It's about knowing that you're going to grow from that. Remembering that you're going to grow for that. Everything that I went through, every bad thing that I went through, I learned something from it every single time. There wasn't a single thing I didn't take away. And if I didn't take away something, I wasn't paying attention. Because there was something there. You know what I'm saying? Life as a Christian is not going to be easy. For those who may be considering it, if you're still considering it, dude, I thought we talked about this. But for those of you who may be just not getting into it and maybe watching this podcast just for a little bit of advice, welcome. I appreciate you. But all the advice you're ever going to need is in that Bible. So go there first. Don't look at me. But we are going to continue in the book of James, of course. But life as a Christian is not easy. Anyone who tells you it's going to be easy, it's not. Dude, you're going to be so much happier, but it's going to come at a price. But nothing that you can't do through the Lord. You know what I'm saying? The Lord provides us with all the strength we're ever going to need for this walk. And this walk is a lifelong journey. You're not going to be fixed in 2 days. You're not going to be saved, or you're not going to be all perfect in a month or so. This journey is a lifelong journey. Because we're all sinners. And we are sinners by nature. We're natural to sin. We're natural to do the things we're not supposed to. But the whole, walk with Christ is a lifelong journey. That's the whole point, It's supposed to be stay dedicated to trying to get closer and closer to Christ throughout this lifetime. And there's going to be immense good, and there's going to be some bad, but immense good, right? Walking with Christ my whole life is not bad at all, because I could either have all the fun I want now, and freedom I want now in sin, and then be separated God from eternity. Or I can do what God asked me, true freedom, happiness I could never imagine. Suffer a little bit of bad, of course, but happiness I can never imagine. And then be eternally happy. Eternally. The human brain cannot fathom forever. So, would you rather be happy and free now and be separated from God for the rest of your life? Or would you rather do what God says and experience happiness you never even thought of, with a little bit of bad, and be happy forever afterwards? It's just something to think about. But I'm gonna go. It's not as long. It's 19 minutes. Really like 18, 17 maybe. I don't know. 6, 7. I don't know. Let me stop. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching. This was episode 1 of James, the book of James. It's going to be about 7 to 8 chapters each time. I already have some pre-notes made for James chapter 1, verse 19 through 15. I got to work on this more, but I am going to have Bible study with my friends tomorrow. So, expand on this a little bit more, and also things I learned from church. But I want to thank you all for watching.